The US, although being a coastal state, has not been a major player in the Arctic. The Trump administration has decided to change this situation. This move came in a type of deeper Russo-Chinese cooperation in the region, as exemplified by the Yamal Liquified Natural Gas project. This will strengthen its position in the circumpolar region, as stressed by Mike Pompeo during the last Arctic Council summit on the 7th of May. The confrontational tone of the discourse and the US position on climate change worried the other members of the Arctic Council and rose uncertainties about the future of the institution. I'm your host Kasim, and thanks for joining me for another KJ vid. In this video we will address America's address to the Arctic Council and the implications of Mike Pompeo's speech. But just before we begin, please visit our website kjvids.co.uk and subscribe to one of our plans, which will give you full access to our content and the transcripts of these reports. We have left a unique link in the description which will give all our YouTube fans a 50% discount to our plans. The Arctic Council is the main institution dealing with the governance and the regional cooperation around the Arctic Ocean. It gathers 8 states as permanent members: Canada, Denmark, the USA, Norway, Sweden, Finland and Russia. In addition, 6 indigenous people groups have permanent participant status. Since the end of the Cold War, the Arctic has been an area of cooperation between states. The relations between the states located above the Arctic Circle have been marked by cooperation around topics such as sustainable developments and environmental issues. By choosing to address one common threat, climate change, within the Arctic Council, the 8 Arctic states have transformed a military theatre into a cooperative area. In the beginning of the 21st century, the Arctic started to attract a lot of interest due to climate change. Indeed, the melting of ice allows new possibilities for shipping and resources extraction. Thus, states having no territories above the Arctic Circle have developed an interest in the governance of the region and became observers of the Arctic Council. An observer that has been particularly active since its entry in 2013 is China. With 3 major powers, Russia, the US and China, and to some extent the EU, being active in the region, one could have expected the situation to get more tense. However, the Arctic Council kept its role in diffusing tensions by institutionalizing relations around common threats. The US, although it has sovereignty over Alaska, has not been a key player in the region. The Trump administration decided to change the situation, but in a fashion that is not reassuring partners and regional neighbours. In his speech held during the Arctic Council meeting in Finland, Mike Pompeo directly confronted Russia and China. Moreover, the US intentions to avoid any mentions to climate change within the Arctic Council can seriously damage the role of the institution. The speech held by Pompeo started by addressing the geopolitical change occurring in the region and being outstandingly aggressive towards China and Russia. First, he addressed the role of China in the region. He voiced his worries about the consequences that a polar Silk Road could create in the Arctic in terms of infrastructures, human rights and environmental performances by drawing comparison with Chinese investments in other parts of the world. His argument that China did not respect the sovereignty of Arctic states and that it could potentially transform the Arctic Ocean into a South China Sea was not in any way matching the reality. So far, China's move in the Arctic has been fully consistent with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, while the US has still not ratified it. Thereafter, he moved on to mention the militarization of the Arctic by Russia. On this matter, there is indeed room for worries. However, drawing a comparison between the Arctic and Ukraine is again not relevant. In the past, we have seen that the crisis in Ukraine did not interfere strongly in the will to cooperate between neighbouring states. Although he is certainly right, saying that Russia is not fully complying with the Council since it asked for fees and for foreign ships to take a Russian pilot abroad wherever sailing on the Northern Sea route, the US is not in a position of force on the matter. Furthermore, Mike Pompeo openly attacked China and Russia on their black carbon and CO2 emission and compared these emissions to the one of the US. If it is true, that Russia and China's emission has been rising due to their economic development, the US is again not in a position of strength in this matter. This double discourse is likely to confuse partners and bring competition where there is cooperation. It seems that Pompeo has understood that. Nowadays, sustainability is part of geopolitics since it brings innovation and thus economical power. However, undermining climate change, especially in a speech given at an Arctic Council meeting, is detrimental to the US and is empowering China. Furthermore, avoiding any mention to climate change stands in stark contradiction with Mike Pompeo's argument. As a matter of fact, it might be the US position regarding climate change and regional institutions that create greater risk to cooperation within the Arctic region rather than China or Russia's performance. By refusing to mention climate change, the US is harming the very core of the Arctic Council, and one can wonder if the institution will be able to survive in the long term. Russia's militarization and China's will to include the Arctic within the One Belt One Road initiative needs to be addressed, but the tone was unnecessarily aggressive. Moreover, the Arctic Council is not the place to do so. Such institutions were designed to create projects and initiatives where states can cooperate. Additionally, having China even as an observer and Russia in the Arctic Council give other states occasion to remind them of the socio-economic and environmental principles that should be respected. This position is part of a pattern in Trump's foreign policy where mentioning climate change is systematically avoided and the role of regional institutions is undermined. This attitude is hurting the US leadership on the global stage. It is obvious that the Arctic may not be now an area as significant as the European continent, and states such as Denmark or Norway cannot afford to cut ties with the US because of the Arctic. However, they might show more interest in cooperating with China and less with the US since the US chose to disregard climate change. Finally, there is a risk that the climate change denialist and the go-it-alone attitude of the US will have consequences on environmental governance at large. That's all for today guys, thanks for watching another KJ vid. We hope you enjoyed this video and we would love to hear your views in the comments. Do you think there will be a new geopolitical conflict in the Arctic which will trump climate change issues? Please don't forget to subscribe to our website kjvids.co.uk to get unlimited access to our content and the transcript of these reports. We have left all our YouTube fans a 50% discount link in the description. Thanks for watching again and see you next time.